2025. Man, oh man, this year sure was great. At being the year between 2024 and 2026, it was a year of many ups and downs. Mostly downs. Just downs. But as always, there was at least one thing to look forward to. That being video games! For those who survived, welcome to my almost annual Top 10 Games of the Year video, where I rank the best games I beat for the first time this year, whether they be new releases or otherwise. Out of 30-something games, these are the lucky few I deemed worthy of gracing this most distinguished of Top 10 lists. Also, I haven't played every game ever, so be nice to me. I'm a very sensitive boy.
It's about to get real nerdy in here.
Donkey Kong Bananza. You know, I thought this game was gonna suck hard before it came out. Even after I got over the shock of Kiddy Kong growing up and getting his own game, I just didn't see the appeal of running around and punching and throwing rocks. That is not at all what I wanted from a new Donkey Kong game. Seeing Cranky and Rambi, and eventually Diddy and Dixie, in the pre-release footage was only a little reassuring, but the glaring omissions of Funky, Candy, Squawks, On Guard, Espresso, K-Rool, the Kremlings, Naughties, Zingers, Neckies, and all the characters that I love had me feeling very cold towards this game that I've been closely following the rumors of for years now due to my love of those classic Rare games. It seemed so far removed from everything I'd hoped to see from a new Donkey Kong game that I just straight up didn't want to play it. But alas, I gave in and bought it anyways. And as you can guess from its inclusion in this list, I ended up enjoying the game far more than I could have imagined. I could really feel the influence from Rare's DK that was sorely missing from the Returns games. This game features some really good character designs, as well as some of the best writing in a Nintendo game I've seen in years. How was I supposed to know that I'd end up actually liking all the new villains? How did I know I'd be so excited to see what every new level would bring? I swear some of these worlds feel so Banjo-Tooie inspired, it isn't funny. And of course, being made by the Mario Odyssey team means the controls are ridiculously fluid. I mean, the game is far from perfect, and I can spend as much time complaining as I can praising it. But after getting to experience one of the best final acts to ever be featured in the entire history of video games, I think I'll stick to praising for now. Master Takahashi's Adventure Island 4 and Wonder Boy, Asha and Monster World. Due to their similarities and them technically being part of the same series, which is a history lesson I'm not going to get into. Not today anyways. I'm just going to clump them both together. These games are part of the genre of adventure platformers, Platventures if you will, that I absolutely adore. Asha and Monster World is a remake of the Mega Drive game Monster World 4, whereas Adventure Island 4 is one of the only Adventure Island games with a focus on exploration rather than running through fast-paced linear stages. Asha and Monster World doesn't look like much from the trailers. The animations seem really stiff and awkward, and on a technical level, the graphics pale in comparison to other contemporary games in this series, like Dragon's Trap and Monster Boy, and maybe even the original game is based on for that matter. But the game actually feels pretty great in practice. It's way easier than the original Sega version, which will be a detriment to some players, but they also fix one of the most infamously frustrating areas from the original, so I'll choose this remake any day. The cutscenes that add so much depth and charm to the story is just a bonus. By the time you finish the game, you'll wish every game let you go on adventures with a good old Peppa-Lagoo. As for Adventure Island 4, you get to go on a prehistoric quest through an interconnected world to save your rideable dino friends from an evil eggplant that's trying to enslave the world with its trace nicotine content, presumably. This was actually the last game to ever get an official release on the Famicom, all the way in 1994, the same year the PlayStation came out in Japan. Naturally, it didn't get an official English release, but if you do find a way to play it in English, you might as well go the extra mile and play the version I did that lets you make Master Takahashi's girlfriend, Tina, the main character. Kirby Triple Deluxe! Well, looks like I'm gonna have to seriously reevaluate my top Kirby rankings because this game blew away my expectations. I never played this game back when it first released because, quite frankly, it looked a little generic. Old Kirby certainly has his fair share of standout games, but you've got to admit, a lot of them seem pretty by the numbers, and they start to blur together in my mind. But this was the good stuff. Great new copy abilities like the Beetle and the Bell, tons of gameplay depth to each of the abilities, creative and original level design from beginning to end, amazing graphics amplified by the 3D effect, gameplay instances that take advantage of the 3DS's gyro controls, oh my! And then there's the game's main gimmick, Hypernova Kirby. So, what, Kirby starts glowing and he can suck in bigger things than usual? It may not sound like the most imaginative concept, but they sure do get the most out of it. Every time Kirby went Hypernova, I knew I was in for some real fun. It might have taken me way over a decade to finally play Triple Deluxe, but it's for the best. As the well of classic Nintendo games I've yet to play dries out, and new games take longer and longer to get made, I always cherish these rare occurrences when I'm pleasantly surprised by a great game that has long eluded me. Katamari Damacy Reroll! I remember when this game came out and you couldn't escape that theme song, whether it be online or on G4 or wherever. Everybody was losing their mind over this crazy, quirky, weird Japanese curiosity about rolling things up into a ball, and somehow it took me until 2025 to finally play this game. And you know what? It's just as majestic as the legends foretold. Roll up trash, roll up animals, roll up people, furniture, houses, trees, skyscrapers, landmasses, the world! All while a soundtrack fit for the king of all cosmos himself plays ever so jovially in the background. This is the good stuff. This is video games. Actually, you know what? An actual brand new Katamari just came out. I didn't play it, but I hear it's pretty good, so for the sake of having some actual 2025 releases on my list, I'm officially giving this spot to Once Upon a Katamari. Phantasy Star 4, The End of the Millennium. No respectable list of the best games of the 16-bit generation could ever exclude Phantasy Star 4. This game has long been spoken of in the same regard as Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger as one of the premier JRPGs of the era. So why am I only now finally playing it in 2025, despite it having been re-released on every console known to man? I don't know. But it sure does feel good to have this planet-hopping epic under my belt. Honestly, it's crazy how they managed to fit such a full, satisfying storyline full of twists and turns that spans an entire solar system, complete with like a zillion coming and going party members, tons of cutscenes, and a whole bevy of side quests, all within the confines of a perfectly paced 20-hour game. I love getting immersed in a really good 100-hour-long epic as much as the next person, but man, does this game make me long for the days when 30 hours or less was more common for JRPGs. Crow Country! From the creators of Snipper Clips, as well as the best Zelda game, comes Crow Country, which only really caught my attention because of the art style. It's like a perfect mix of Final Fantasy VII and Resident Evil 2, but with the high-tech magic of a fully rotational camera in lieu of the static angles of ages past, which really jellies my jigglers. But beyond that, the game is actually super well made. It's just one big old puzzle box that feels super good to solve. When the game starts, it's dead ends galore, but once everything starts coming together and you start figuring everything out, it's pure gaming bliss. And on top of all of that, there's actually a really fun and intriguing plot. Recency bias, duly accounted for. I think I would rank this game above any of the classic PS1 Resident Evil games that it was inspired by. It really is that good. Zack and Wiki, Quest for Barbarossa's Treasure. I was one of the 5 people who actually knew what this game was back in 2007 when it came out. I thought the game looked awesome. I was super excited to play it. I even had the Nintendo Power poster on my wall. I mean, just look at this artwork. It's like Capcom dived into my soul and said, hey, let's make a game for that guy. So imagine how I feel knowing that it took me 18 years to finally get around to playing this game. Well, anyways, I finally played it and it was great. It really took me back to the days of the Wii, when it was still new and exciting, and all the developers were trying to get the most out of the new motion controls. You use motion controls to do everything in this game. Every puzzle is so creative and fun. But the real impressive thing is how rarely it gets too confusing or obtuse. In this game, that's essentially just one big collection of puzzle boxes. The challenge level is just right. As far as cons go, I do wish I could use a nunchuck or even the D-pad to walk around instead of pointing and clicking the whole time. But the thing I hated the most is that every time you lose and have to restart a challenge, you have to listen to Wiki go, which is so shrill and grating that I've got to mute the TV each time lest my eardrums start to erupt with blood. But that's the only blight on an otherwise beautiful, unique, creative, and all-around delightful little game. You know, I could say much more about all these games, but I've been holding back a lot for the sake of brevity. If you'd have preferred I dedicated more time talking about each game, which would have resulted in a much longer video, let me know, as that'll affect how I tackle these videos in the future. Anyways, Pokemon Legends ZA. This game was far better than it had any right to be. I still don't like it half as much as Legends Arceus, but it's still a pretty enjoyable experience. Much better than I was led to believe there was pre-release materials. Catching the Pokemans is just as fun as ever, and the new battle zones are a surprising amount of fun. The game lets me dress up in only the finest of outfits, and I also caught a shiny Trubbish, and he is mine and I am his. I'm still only midway through the game, so I can't say too much about it, but so far I think it's safe to say that it's one of the most fun games I've played all year, beating out many of the games that I actually did finish. Finally, they're here for you, the last members of the Best Games I Played in 2025 crew. God, this video sucks. Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake. These remakes are insane. I've talked about both of these games on this channel before. Well, mainly the Switch ports of the mobile versions based on the Super Famicom remakes of the originals, and I've had nothing but nice things to say about them. But regardless of how I feel about them, they're still very much those same pioneering JRPGs from 40 years ago. The first game's story can be summarized in one sentence. The Dragon Lord and his minions are terrorizing the land, and you've got to stop them. Also, he captured the princess. 2 sentences. You play as one guy, no party members, and you fight monsters one-on-one, like a simplified version of Pokemon. Point is, for all its charm and qualities, the first Dragon Quest game is pretty basic, which makes it a great candidate for a modernized remake, but at the same time, it makes the prospect of a remake seem kinda daunting. They'd have to give it some pretty substantial additions to bring the game up to modern standards, while also keeping the spirit of the original. Well, they somehow did it. This game is still that original Dragon Quest through and through, but it's also so much more. For starters, the battle system is greatly expanded upon. Not only do you now fight multiple enemies at once, but there's also a new risk-reward system, where you get powerful new spells when your HP is half depleted, and there's a ton of new bosses that expect you to take advantage of this. Seriously, even on the standard difficulty, a couple of these bosses were some of the most difficult I've faced in the whole series. Then there's the story. It's the same story as before, but now with so much more depth and characterization. And now you've got multiple all-new plot lines featuring an assortment of new characters, and it's all so good, and it all just makes the world of Alfgard feel so much more lively. There was one plot point in the game that literally had me yelling "No!" at my TV screen. I could have never imagined that the original Dragon Quest could have me so invested in its story and characters. The best part of the game is how much it constantly calls back to the events of Dragon Quest III. This remake has been completely recontextualized as a direct sequel to that game. They didn't even know there'd be a Dragon Quest III back in 1986. That's the power of a good remake. Oh yeah, there's 2 games in this collection! Every praise I've heaped onto the first game can just as easily be attributed to Dragon Quest II. This game gives you a full party, now with a whole extra party member! That's right, Bobbery, Koops, and Flurry are now joined by Goombella. While these characters were extremely basic in the original, with just a tiny handful of dialogue to keep them from being silent protagonists, the remake gives them an absurd amount of cutscenes with fully voice-acted dialogue. These people who used to be nothing are now fully fleshed out characters with strong personalities who go through entire character arcs. It's like I'm playing a completely new game, and that's just scratching the surface. There's so much here that's all new. New characters, new villains, new story arcs, new towns, bosses, dungeons. There's now an entire underwater world to explore. This game that used to be like 15 hours long now lasts closer to 60 hours. These new versions of Dragon Quest 1 and 2 are among the best and most substantive video game remakes I have ever played. Yeah, so I have a bunch of videos lined up for 2026, so I'll try my best not to go 2 years without an upload again. But no promises.